Next, I want to talk about Star Wars Outlaws. I want to react to Coh's video on it, which came out 2 days ago, and I want to see what he thinks about it, and then I'll talk about what I think about it. But let's get into it, shall we?
I can't think of any franchise celebrated as much as Star Wars.
Warhammer. Like, come on. People don't celebrate the Star Wars franchise, people celebrate the 6 movies and the Clone Wars. They celebrate the original stuff. They don't celebrate the franchise. They celebrate the saga of Luke Skywalker and Anakin Skywalker. It's not even the Skywalker saga because now they've changed the meaning of that by adding in Rey.
As a diehard Star Wars fan, I was very excited for Star Wars Outlaws.
Making Star Wars open world games is the next level of difficulty.
I think there will be a portion of people that just see this as another mediocre Ubisoft game.
It is.
It's just the same game I have experienced so many times already from Ubisoft. I'm just so bored of it.
But Far Cry 3 was good. That's the thing. Because Far Cry 3 was the start of it. It was the first iteration of this new formula, and at the time it was fresh and it fit the game, right? As you grow, as you kill more and more people, you learn more and more abilities and get all of these things, your character also changes and becomes more and more dangerous to the point that, this nice kid who's just a rich kid who has never even held a weapon in his life turns into a monster, and your friends react to you appropriately, and it's a very nice story that tells itself through its gameplay. And then the Avatar game was just dead fucking boring. I don't know if you've played it, but it's just a dead boring game. And Valhalla, the Assassin's Creed formula is just so boring to me. It's like the game tries to play itself as you're controlling your character. He just keeps doing, you press one button and your character goes off and tries to do as many actions as he can to get as much of the game out of your way as possible. And it's so bad, man, so bad. It's such a bad way to do it. It's so bad. You're trying to play a game and the game's trying to play itself. Cringe.
When a big company and a big IP get together, that immediately sets some big expectations.
Yeah.
Particularly for how the game is going to look, how the animations are going to look, how the story is going to be delivered, how the gameplay is going to be. Wow.
Did you just shoot that woman dead in the forehead and
How the story is going to be delivered, how the gameplay is going to be. Wow.
She has a hole in her head.
Girl, I can see where my laser invaded your brain pan.
Plasma, actually.
I feel like in this game, there's some parts of it that really hit a home run.
Hang on to me, Nix. We gotta climb.
What? Okay. Damn, girl. All right. I really like the setting. I like the environments. I like the speeder. I like the elements of this that make it feel incredibly immersive.
Yeah,
and that's awesome. For me, unfortunately, though, there are some downsides that are going to hit me pretty hard. Like, for instance, one of the reasons I would play a game like this is specifically for the characters and story. And I feel like the animations, particularly of how well voiced.
I don't know if anybody else has seen these, but these animations would not look out of place in Mass Effect 1.
The main character are not the same level as the other parts of the game.
Come on. I just need my data spike fixed.
I have to admit, it's a bit concerning seeing how much they're focusing on the cinematography and the presentation of the characters with the quality of the lip syncing. And that plus the more kind of on-rails gameplay, that makes me personally less invested to see where the story goes and to continue exploring the character.
I mean, yeah, if you're trying to make a cinematic experience, and then as the player experiences that cinematic experience, they slowly come to the realization that you couldn't be bothered to make that cinematic experience be cinematic, players going to stop caring.
I think for some people it's going to be fine, but I am somebody who, like we talked about earlier, I tend to even subconsciously set large expectations for games like.
As you look, here's the thing. I tend to set large expectations, and now people are saying, "Oh, your expectations were too high for Outlaws," because Ubisoft is a small indie company, right? It's not a giant of the industry. Ubisoft is one of the biggest companies out there. I'm not talking just gaming. Ubisoft is one of the biggest companies in the world. They have infinite money. Okay? When we have expectations for it, those expectations are always justified. We're talking about Ubisoft, one of the biggest companies in the world, working on Star Wars, one of the biggest franchises in the world. So now we have the expectation of Ubisoft's resources and experience making open world games, because that's all they've done. They've always only done open world stuff, especially more recently. Everything they do is open world, for good or bad. Sorry, I had a hiccup like halfway through the word. For good or bad, all they do is open world stuff, right? So if that's all they do, they better be good at it. And then you've got Star Wars, which has a built-in fan base. That fan base has been, let's be honest, starved for good games. We had the EA games. We've had games, not good games, and people want these games. We had Jedi Fallen Order, that was good. Then Jedi Survivor, also good, not as good, not as good as Fallen Order. It just didn't flow as well, right? But it was an expansion on the previous concept, so it was good. Just could have been better, right? If we get a third one in the Jedi Knight series with Cal Kestis, maybe they'll make it a little bit better, right? We'll see. We don't know yet. But when we're talking about Star Wars and when we're talking about Ubisoft, no expectation of quality. I'm not talking about depth. I'm not talking about scope. I'm talking about quality. No expectation of quality is too high. So when I log into an indie game, right, and I see the graphics of Outlaws, I go, that's okay. When I walk into a Ubisoft game in 2024 that is extremely heavy, because the specs for Star Wars Outlaws are extremely heavy. Like let me see if I can look this up. Outlaws PC specs. So yeah, it requires an Intel Core i7 8700K CPU, 16 gigs RAM, 65 GB SSD space. Right. So you know what else requires stuff like that? Space Marine 2. Space Marine 2 requires that as well. Looks a lot better. Another game that is actually going to come out soon-ish is Veilguard, which actually has lower specs. And from everything we've seen, in fact, let's bring up some Veilguard. Give me a second. Let's bring up some Dragon Age Veilguard and look at just the release trailer, which includes in-game graphics.
All because you disrupted. The blighted elven gods walk free. All because
Lower specs than Outlaws.
you disrupted my ritual.
This is in-game graphics.
You
This
battle
is
against
all
gods.
without
They will
a
not rest
cinematic engine
until you
behind
are
it.
on your
These are the
knees.
graphics you see when playing the game.
Fearful, cowering, helpless in the face of such power.
I think I've proven my point when it comes to this stuff, right? Ubisoft has no excuse. None. Zero. Zilch. No excuse to have graphics this bad. Unacceptable. All right? When you come here and you tell me beautiful graphics, cinematic experience, characters you can care about, all of this stuff, and then you have none of it? No. People should be harsh with this. Because if we're not, they're going to keep devaluing our money. You want to know why we should be extremely harsh with this? Because, and let's look at Outlaws on the Ubisoft store, because we're now going to talk about money. We're going to talk about what the value proposition is. You play Outlaws. I'm trying to see if I can get there it is. Buy. There it is. I want to look at the price of this, right? So $70, that's not the full game, right? Because it's a single player game. The actual thing that you have to pay to get all of the content in the game is $110. So we can consider that these $70 you're paying for graphics and a part of the story, because they are going to increase the amount of stuff, right? Unlock the additional Star Wars Outlaws wildcard and Star Wars Outlaws: A Pirate's Fortune narrative expansions, right? Except it's 110 euro. I said dollars. It's 110 euros. 70 euros for the base game. It's unacceptable. They have literally no excuse to not give us our money's value, and they refuse to. So this idea that, oh, we should be super harsh with them. No, we should be. Our expectations should be met. We should have standards. This is a multi-million-dollar company, if not a billion-dollar company. It's one of the biggest in the fucking world. They have no excuse.
This antisuckiness. That's a word that I came up with. And what antisuckiness is,
say people should get comfortable not owning games anymore. Yes, which is why I don't give Ubisoft money anymore. If I ever play a game of theirs, I'll say it right here, you can clip it, save it for later. If you ever catch me playing a Ubisoft game, know that I did not pay for it.
Games mostly. Antisuckiness is when you're anticipating something so much that things you normally like suck.
I'm going to let him finish the argument.
That's kind of where we are with this. I think that Star Wars fans that want to run around in the Star Wars world will get that with this game.
That's bullshit, Co. You know it's bullshit. If you sit down and you watch this video again, even if you don't admit it, I know you're going to listen to yourself saying that, and you're going to physically cringe. Come on, Co. Like, I get that you want to keep sponsorships. I get all of that. Do not put this on the fans. Don't do that. Because all that does is it puts you in the same chair as Kotaku, as PC Gamer, as the articles and outlets that looked at this pile of trash and said, yeah, it's good enough. No, it's not. Just because you don't have to pay for your video games doesn't mean everybody else doesn't. And even if you don't get the codes, your money comes from other people's pocket, all right? It comes from people watching your content, it comes from people donating. And this isn't me hating on the fact that you're a streamer. I'm a streamer myself. I want to be where you are. But at the same time, you can't sit there and look your viewers dead in the eye and say, you only didn't like it because you had too high anticipations of it. You had too high standards. We're talking about Ubisoft here. When was the last time that Ubisoft put out a game that wasn't open world? Let's see. Let's see on Wikipedia, because they have an actual list of all of their games, right? Shut up for a second. So let's go right here. Games. List of Ubisoft games. So list of games. These are actually too big to list in one go, so let's look at here. So from present to past, right? We're actually gonna start right here. So we're gonna look at the actual like Ubisoft stuff. So open world, online only racing, racing video game. I don't know what this one is. This is open world ish. Open world, Watch Dogs. Open world, Just Dance, Rainbow Six. Open world, side scroller, open world. You see how many of these games are like massive open world games? You see how many of these are massive open world games? And then you want to sit here and tell me, oh, your standards were too high. Come on. Come on, Co. Open world. Like every single Assassin's Creed, every single Division game, every single one of these massive open world titles with a ton of microtransactions shoved in there, devaluing your money. And you want to look me in the eye and say, oh, your expectations were too high. Bullshit. Bullshit, Co.
I mean, the setting is cool.
No, it's not.
The character is clearly like super well voiced. The voice actor's just killing it.
That's a
Yeah,
meaningless
I think
detail.
this is going to be a lot of good for a lot of people. Now, the next inevitable question is, if you are not a Star Wars fan, like, what?
Except Star Wars fans also didn't like it. Disney Star Wars fans loved it. You want to know why? Because Disney Star Wars fans aren't actual fans. They're just consumers. They will watch bright lights on the screen and go, "Oh my God, that's so cool!" And I met a bunch of them. When the sequels came out, when the last movie came out, and all of a sudden Sidious just had an army, like an entire fleet of super Star Destroyers, each one of them with a Death Star laser, and it just came out of nowhere. It made no sense. You want to know why it made no sense? Because first of all, where do you get the people for those Star Destroyers? Where do you get the people? Secondly, where do you get the resources? And I'm not just talking about, the metal and the plastics to make the ships themselves. I'm talking about how do they get the kyber crystals to make those ships? Because here's the thing. Kyber crystals were mined out everywhere to make the first Death Star. Then they had to spend years making their own crystals to attempt the second one. And they had to also find a new source. And this was while they had the resources of the Galactic Empire. So now that the Sith are relegated to a single planet on the fringes that is secret and nobody can get there, how exactly did they get all of that stuff? Oh, but it made for such a neat shot with all of the rebels coming in and fighting all these other ships. And it's like my own father looked at that and he was like, yeah, that was actually a really cool moment. And then I looked him in the eye and said, how did the rebels get through the storm? And he couldn't answer me. And then I asked him, how did the Sith acolytes get through the storm? How were they there? Because here's the thing. The Knights of Ren being there, sure. A few cultists being there, sure. Make it a dungeon. Make it an adventure. You know how you make Star Wars good? Did anybody here watch the Dungeons and Dragons movie? That's how. You have a small crew, like in the original, and they fight through dangers. They encounter these dangers, and they beat the Sith. That's how you had to do it in the sequels. You want to know why? Because the Sith were beaten. There was no empire. The war would have to be smaller scale. It would have massive implications, but you could never do what you did with the Clone Wars, with the prequels, or even with the original trilogy, where they had an actual all-out war. Why? Because now the Republic is back, and the Sith are beaten almost entirely. They have remnants. Those remnants are still dangerous, but now you need to fully beat them. Sure, whatever. Even though, let's be honest, the whole point of the original trilogy was that, Vader being the chosen one, or Anakin, at the end he becomes Anakin again, whatever, kills the last of the Sith, thereby ending the tradition of the Sith. So you could have all of these other dark side threats, but they wouldn't be Sith because the Sith were destroyed. Whatever.
What would you think about this game? And that's
bad.
where you would need to start having
And the Star Wars
discussion
fans
on
think it's
quality.
bad as
The
well.
stick only has 2 modes. There's like a run and there's a walk.
That's fine.
But there's nothing in between them. There's no like
That's a nitpick.
gradual increase in speed. Like you're either walking or then the second you push too hard, you're running. Which is normally that's how you feel on keyboard, not on controller. That's a little strange.
It's a nitpick. I can understand why a controller player would find that annoying. And yeah, that is bad, but it's a nitpick.
If I'll continue it, I'll say right now is a maybe. I will say that I'm not hooked enough in the story to really want to see.
Why didn't he just shoot the thing? Like, that's a small critter.
I will say that I'm not hooked enough in the story to really want to see where it goes. And unfortunately, with the animation delivery, I'm not entirely sure I would want to get there if I took the journey. So I don't quite know. Also, the gameplay wasn't quite engaging enough for me. Like, I did like the little pet. The pet stuff was fun. Pet.
Oh, that's a womp rat.
Oh.
That's cute.
Bang, bang.
But it felt
God, they just want to sell plushies.
it didn't really, funny enough, like some other stuff we've done recently, I feel like it's trying to do something again, but its own flavor doesn't really seem to be there.
Yeah.
And
by the way, this is also why I think that the Assassin's Creed in Japan is gonna suck, because hey, look at that, it's got the same gameplay as this, right? So it's just gonna be ass, dude. It's just gonna be ass. It's gonna suck.
Yeah. But anyway, that's where we are. For people asking me, do I think it's worth the money?
No.
I can't answer that for you.
Yes, you can.
Because a big part on if it's worth the money is how many enjoyable hours I get out of it, and I would have to finish it for that. So there's no way that I can answer that for you. I will say that I think that this game is going to be absolutely fine for a lot of people. It's not.
Yeah. This is a really bad review. This is a really bad review because Co's just like refusing to actually say whether or not the game does what it's like. Games set out to do something, right? When you launch a game, especially a new addition to an existing franchise, you have an objective. Sometimes the objective is to create just a place you can walk around. And if that was the case for Outlaws, good. You know, the city, everybody says the city is really nice, and it does look really enjoyable to just go around into the bars, do the cooking, do all that stuff. That's awesome, right? But that's a fifth of the game, right? So that's 2 points that the game gets. 2. Then the game has stealth, the game has shooting, the game has sneaking, the game, well, I already said stealth. The game has lockpicks, the game has RPG stuff. It has quests, it has a story. Everything I've heard of the story, people say, it's mid. So let's say 1 more point. So now it's a 3. The combat, we're going to talk about the combat in a second. The stealth, please. What else did I mention? The RPG stuff, I haven't even heard anybody say a good thing about it. It's just, I guess it's there. So like right now, we've got a 3 out of 10 game because it has good wandering around and just chilling in the city, and it's an okay story. But now let's look at the combat. Let's look at the combat here. So Star Wars Outlaws combat. Where is that infamous clip? I think you've all seen the clip of a guy just crouching.
Come on.
Yeah. He was there, and then he sped away a little bit, came back, there's soldiers. That's fine, right? Oh, look at that, they forgot she was there. And now they can't shoot her anymore. This is the combat. Colonial Marines AI, yeah.
Okay.
This is pathetic. This is Ubisoft.
No! We lost her!
All right, we're clear.
Must be tired.
Nothing here.
So I think I made my point when I say that, you know, these are dollars, but like it's 110 euro. And yes, for the full game, you have to pay 110 euros because the DLC is already made. Like, I'm okay if, for example, Rogue Trader, right? In Warhammer. It has a season pass. for DLCs that weren't made yet. It was a, hey, please support us because we actually are a smaller studio, and believe in us and we'll provide more content. And Owlcat has provided content in the past. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of their Pathfinder games because I think that the difficulty is all over the place. But people enjoy those games still. And I enjoyed the hell out of Rogue Trader. I thought the difficulty was spot on. And eventually the newest DLC will come out, I think later in September. And I think that that's going to be awesome to play through. You're going to get an assassin, you're going to get to fight gene stealers. Like, I'm really excited about that because they actually gave us an expansion with the DLC. This though, $110 for this? And by the way, like I said, Rogue Trader, but let's actually look at what the season pass for Rogue Trader is. What does it cost? So the game itself of Rogue Trader costs 50, and then the Voidfarer edition actually has a bundle where you pay less, and it includes the season pass. So it's like the season pass itself for this game is only $30. So the season pass because the original game on Outlaws is $70 euros, 70 euros, and then the season pass is 40, so it's 110. And that's not even everything because there's also like customizable stuff that you can't get in the game and other crap. So like this is literally just you're being robbed, and they're paying journalists to not call them out on it. And that's disgusting. And honestly, I think it's really, really disappointing that you, somebody whose job is not to represent the company, but to represent the audience, because that's why you have that audience, because they feel represented in you. It's really disappointing that you would throw that away to say, oh, Star Wars fans just had too high expectations, because that's what you said here with this suckiness. You said you anticipated it so much that whatever came out was going to suck. It's like, no, that's bullshit. You want to know why? I had the highest expectations for Space Marine 2. I started playing that game 5 minutes in, I knew it had met my expectations. I had the highest of expectations for Baldur's Gate 3. I started playing that game, it wasn't 5 minutes in, it took a few hours, but I realized that had met my expectations. I had the highest of expectations for Elden Ring. 5 minutes into the game, I knew it had met my expectations. That's the difference, all right? We had years of knowing that these games were going to come out and for hype to build. And then the game comes out and it meets the hype and it's a 9 out of 10 game. If not a 10 out of 10. I would actually say that I would say that Elden Ring is a 9 out of 10 just because of some of the boss fight animations. But so far, I have yet to see something in Space Marine 2 that the game attempted to do, and I went, that could have been better. The shooting, awesome. Keyboard stuff could be a little bit better, but you can change the controls yourself. You can organize the controls yourself. That's what I mean when it could have been a little better. So I'm not even going to discount that because you could literally just set up the controls for yourself however you want them. So that's not a real criticism, right? Just set up the controls however you want. The boss fights, awesome. The horde mode, awesome. There's nothing in the game that I go, I haven't even tried PvP yet, but that's not why I want to play Space Marine 2. I want to play Space Marine 2 for the PvE. I want to play for the horde mode and the campaign, and that's why. If I play the PvP, it'll be a little bit just to see what the Chaos Space Marine skins look like, and that's about it. So 10 out of 10, as far as I care. And Baldur's Gate 3, like, I guess it could have been a little bit better if they had gone for gridded combat. I think that the gridded combat of something like Solasta fits 5th edition a lot better. But then at the same time in Baldur's Gate 3, they kind of mixed and matched Baldur's Gate. They mixed and matched 5th edition rule set with the rule set of Divinity Original Sin. And at that point, yeah, sure, they're gonna need to make some changes here and there, and for that, sure, we can go with the idea that, yeah, you don't play on a grid, you play on like the map, and it's fine, right? So I think that that's a 9 out of 10 game. This though, we were promised good stealth. There isn't any. We were promised good shooting. There isn't any. We were promised all sorts of activities in the city to do with the pet and all that. That's in the game. We were promised a cute little critter. That's in the game. We were promised an amazing story as an outlaw. You're not an outlaw. You're a resistance fighter because, hey, guess what? There's one type of people that you can mess with. The Empire. You're an outlaw. You're a thief. You're a bandit, basically. And the only person that you can mess with is the Empire. I thought I was a thief. I can't do thief things. I can't steal from people. I can't, like, there's no illegal activity. Like, Red Dead Redemption 2 did it better, where you still had these people who were, you know, thugs and crooks and thieves and bandits and whatever, but you still felt as though they could be good people, even though they were stealing from regular folk. That's, I think, what they wanted to do here, but they wanted to do it in the Star Wars universe, and they didn't have the balls to go all the way through, and so now they failed at the game, and the game is a 4 out of 10, if that.
Not a bad game.
Yes, it is.
At least the parts that I played were not like it felt it
Oh
ran
my God!
well.
Look,
Bad
look,
game.
Co.
At least the
Come on
parts that I
here.
played were not like it felt.
It's not a bad game, guys. No, seriously,
It's not a
trust
bad
me.
game.
He's walking across an open field with
At least the parts
two
that
people shooting at him.
absolutely fine for a lot of people. It's not a bad game. At least the parts that I played were not like it felt. It ran well. It was pretty. The setting was cool.
No, it doesn't run well. No, we can see that
The
it's
parts
not
that I
running
played
well.
were not like it felt. It ran well. It was pretty.
We've got
The setting
clipping
was
issues
cool.
all over the map.
Like,
We've
that
got
part was
low
good.
frame rate. We've got
But yeah,
all
I would
sorts
say
of
there's
things
definitely some
happening here. Co, come on, man. You're showing that you're lying. Co, what the hell? Seriously, you're sitting here saying that the game is good, that the stuff that you played was good, that the game runs well, and we are seeing that what you're saying is not true.
Parts that can use a little more oomph, for sure. But
Yeah, no. This is Wildlands had stealth gadgets, vehicles, open world, and released by Ubisoft 7 years ago. I played Wildlands. Yeah, it was a hard game. It was fun to play. You felt good whenever you got this through the stealth sections. The gadgets were fun to use. The shooting was satisfying. The vehicles were awesome. The open world was, you know, engaging. I'm not seeing any of that here. So, yeah, no. They could have literally just done Wildlands in Star Wars, and I think that would have been successful. They could have just gone Outlaws. We're outlaws because we're fighting against the Empire, so they decided that we are now outlaws, and you're playing as a resistance fighter on this world, and you're doing all this stuff, and that would have been badass. That would have been badass. They wouldn't even have had to add space travel. They could have just said, yeah, no, this is just a single area, and so you're doing it here. But they could have added like space travel where you're traveling across a bunch of planets to deal with like specific things in the area. They could have literally just copy pasted Ghost Recon gameplay onto Star Wars, and it would have been good. Instead, they gave us this garbage. And it is garbage, 100%. There is no part of this that isn't garbage. They should have used Imagine Dragons for trailer music, true. I think, and I can't stress this enough. I actually want to show you guys this, because that's a really good point. Like, understand how to create hype, and you'll be able to create hype. And it's not difficult to create hype, really. Just give people what they want. You got people who want to play Star Wars, who want the experience of fighting against the Empire. Give them that. You want people who want to, you know, beat the shit out of aliens. Give them that. You have people who want to play as a cowboy or a gunslinger in Star Wars. Give them that. Quit with this garbage where you decide what your consumer wants isn't what they really want. Seriously, it's so fucking annoying. And you're wrong every time. Every single time that you say, oh, the consumer's wrong, we know better. You fail and you deserve to fail. Every time. With that ranting out of the way, Co, shame on you. You should genuinely be ashamed of this video. You should genuinely, I hope, genuinely I hope that you look back on this video tomorrow or, whenever you look back on this video and you physically cringe because you know what you said here is a lie. Because at least then you'll still have a little bit of self-awareness. You still won't be the same as Kotaku and PC Gamer. You still won't be the same as these game journalists. But you should be ashamed of this video because throughout this video you showed that the words coming out of your mouth are lies. And lying to your fan base of millions of people, really, because he's a streamer first. Like, he doesn't have that big of a following on YouTube, but he is a streamer first. At least this might be just a clip channel, actually. Let me see. Does he have an actual YouTube channel? Okay, yeah. So this is actual YouTube
Hey everyone,
channel. And so he's got 400,000 subscribers here. But he's a streamer first. So most of his following is on, Twitch. And he is the definition of somebody with the ear of the industry. And then he uses it to lie to his audience.
the last 2 hours.
And that's extremely disappointing. It is. Like, this is why people look at Cohh and say he's an industry plant, because he kind of behaves like one. And this isn't to take away from the effort that it took for him to get here. I'm sure it was very hard, but at this point, yeah, no, this is shameful. As always, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Big stretch. Big stretch. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Leave a like, subscribe, do all that stuff. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Cheers.